Around the Ozarks is now on your FM radio. Listen to Around the Ozarks mornings with Grace Gooley as I spotlight local people, stories, and podcasts, all while playing the country legends of the 90s and the hit makers of the 2000s. It's on the Ozarks' best country, 105.1 The Bull.
You're listening to The Real Deal Conversations, a podcast designed to encourage, inspire, and equip you by sharing real stories and meaningful conversations that bring real life to the surface. I'm your host, Megan Deal. Let's dive in. This episode is brought to you by Ozark Veterinary Clinic. I am with Coach John Perry today, who is the head coach for Nixa. But he also, outside of that, which I think a lot of people are starting to see these days, is you are also a speaker on mental performance and development and personal development, and also now author. And you wrote the book, Never Stop Getting Better. And that's what I want to talk about today. Before I talk about it, though, I want to kind of talk about like the process of the book. Then we're going to get into some of the things from the book. And then we're going to hear from Steph, his wife, because there's some questions I have for her. And I am super excited that Steph is on today. Thanks for coming on, guys.
For sure. Thank you for having us.
So I want to, before we get into this, because a lot of, not a lot, I don't know why I said a lot. That's exaggerative, guys. Sometimes you wonder, when people are speaking, writing, when they're out there doing leadership talks, you do wonder, does that match their personal self? Does that match them in the background? Does that match them?
Sure.
Are they just giving us lip service?
No doubt.
So I'm going to give you guys two examples that shows you who John is, what he says really is. So 2 things. One, he talks about humility as a leader. And he talks about it in his book. And I am real big. So because I do leadership conversations, because leadership is just something I'm really big on in general, I'm always looking, I'm looking in between the lines. I'm looking at people in their everyday. I'm looking at how they respond. I am looking beyond what a lot of people are looking at. We went to state this last year. We did not win. We had a, what was that at the school? It was like a awards thing. You know what I mean? So we had an awards thing after that. And Coach Perry stood, and this is the only thing I remember from that awards thing I want you to know. Coach Perry stood in front of all those players and all those players' parents and did not say a word about that game in regard to anybody but himself. It is the only thing I remember from that. And this is what I take from that. He didn't just talk about humility, he showed humility. And he showed humility in front of an entire team of young men and their parents. And showed those young men what humility looked like in real time. So I say that to say he is who he is. He is what he speaks.
For good or bad.
And then the second thing I want to talk about too, before we get into all this, is it was prom. And there's this band app that all the parents are on, all the players are on, And this video pops up. And it's John. And he's talking to the boys in video format about the decisions they make that night will affect them. And he's giving them encouragement and he's speaking into them and basically being a good, like a dad. And I text Perry and I said, tell him. It was a preach. And I saw that video. And this is what I want to say to that. John does not just care about his players on the field. John cares about his players off the field in a way that I have not seen coaches care about their players. And he cares about their development, their personal self, and who they are as young men and who they are becoming. And it's not just to do with football and making sure that they have wins. He genuinely cares. So all that to be said, I know it's a long intro, but it's really important that people know this man is who he is. So you ready to get into it?
Yeah, you're making it hard for me to be humble. You know what I'm saying? When you say all that, I'm thinking maybe I'm not so humble.
No.
You know? But I will say this, and you know this, as you dive into leadership, one of the first things you learn, one of the toughest lessons that you learn is that when you win, it's all about the players. When you lose, it's all about you. You know what I mean? You just learn that from the very beginning, that, to take ownership of the bad things that happen, because as the leader, you are ultimately responsible for it. You know what I mean? And then you give praise in the good times and you take it in the bad times. And that's just part of, being a leader. And then the other story, I've seen I've had great kids that, made a stupid mistake the night of prom because they're very emotionally driven humans at that age, right? Like whatever feels good, I'm going to do it. But then one emotionally discharged event can change the course of their life. And, it's just disheartening when you see it happen to a kid that's really good, got a bright future, and they just do one thing, which one stupid thing that they normally wouldn't do, right? But with prom and the pictures and the eating out and sometimes, it's hard to make good decisions. So, that's just trying to keep from going down that road that we've been down before in the past.
No, I appreciate it. Daniel and I talk often. Not often, but we've said numerous times that we would not want anyone else coaching Eli than you. So, and we genuinely
are
mean
blessed
that.
to be here. I can assure you of that.
Yes. So let's get into, before we kind of dive into the book, I want to know, because writing a book is a vulnerable thing. What you're writing is permanently out there. And I also, writing a book, you can wonder, is anybody going to like this? Is anybody going to buy this? Is this even worth doing? And I would think there's a lot of mental hurdles and a lot of, maybe not for you, for me, there would be some self-doubt. There'd be some questions of, was there for you?
Most definitely. Like, let's just be honest in that, a large majority of our thoughts are negative, just in general, right? They say 74 to 80% are negative, 95% are recurring. We think the same things over and over, and we all have this inner critic. So whenever you start to do something positive or you start to do something good, you're going to get right off the bat, like, who are you to write a book? Like, you don't have anything to say, like, shut up. Like, that's what your inner critic starts saying. Who's going to read it? The feedback's going to be terrible. Nobody's going to like it. Like, like that is the way that our minds work, right? So, you have to be able to get past that, and it's still tough sometimes, like I can, because she and I, through editing it, read it, 100 times. I got sick of it, and by the time it was over, like I was really like, I don't know about this, because, there's just so many things that you throw out there and then you don't even know, right? Is it, does anybody gonna give is it, you don't know. And I still, like the feedback has been great. Like it's been very positive, but there's also, there's a little section in that book about haters, and if you're not doing anything, it's easy to not write a book, right? Anybody can not write a book, right? That's easy. You're not going to catch hate if you don't write a book for writing a book, because you didn't write a book, right? So if you write a book, you've got to understand that there are going to be some people out there that are absolutely going to hide behind a screen, hide behind a text message, and say that, man, that book stinks. That's okay. That's, if you're not getting any negative feedback, then you are probably not doing enough in this world. So we just went in with the understanding that it's okay, good or bad. One of our goals was to write a book. So we wrote a book. That's been on I normally carry my goals in my money clip, which my money clip is in my truck, but my goals are in the money clip. So every time I pull out my debit card, I see my goals. Well, writing a book was a goal in 2022. It was a goal in 2023. Didn't happen. 2024, nah. 2025, it finally started to happen, and then it happened in 2026. So I am a person that, I try to set goals. I try to look at them all the time. I try to make it visual, and eventually try to do it. But, that inner critic is tough, right? I mean, it's tough on everybody. Like that's part of the reason why, we went through the process of getting certified as a mental performance coach was A, to help kids, because kids really started struggling out of COVID. But then B, everybody struggles, right? Like it helped me in my own head as much as it helped anybody. So, that has been a challenge, like overcoming that thought process. But, like you just don't, like you just can't worry about that. You got to replace those negative thoughts with positive thoughts about, as you well know, when you do a podcast, like we're not great at appreciating other people. That's not a great habit we have, because we feel like if I raise you up, it makes me feel less of me, right? That's the way we act as humans, so we don't appreciate folks. But what you do get from time to time, you'll get somebody that will appreciate you. You'll get the text, you'll get the email that, that really meant something to them. And the little appreciations you get far outweigh anything else. Because when I started speaking, I still to this day, before I walk up on stage, my prayer to myself and to God is, just let me be a blessing, if only to one person. If one person is caught, with an idea, then, I'm grateful that I did it, and it's without fail, there will be somebody that will come up and say, Coach, man, I needed that today. Well, that's what makes me want to write a book, share on a podcast, or, go speak somewhere, because I want to add value to other people's lives if I can. Absolutely.
I think what you said about even if it's one person, that one person matters.
No doubt about
more
it.
Than, and I think a lot of people go into something and they're like, I want the whole room to, and you have this big expectation that's so unnecessary. That one person, you have no idea what that one person needed to hear. You have no idea if that one thing was that one thing that they needed to see hope for tomorrow for themselves. That one mental performance thing that you said was the one thing that was like,
no doubt.
Okay. And what door opens? Because, and I do think, I think some of it is ego. People are like, this whole room needs to receive from me. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. So actually I was going to kind of go one way, but because of something you said, I'm going to go another way. You were talking about all the thoughts that we think. And in the book, there was a number. What's the number? It was like a certain number of thoughts that we have per day.
60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Okay. Now, I have no idea how they know that.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's right. I just know that that's what research says. I don't know how you can count that high in a day with thoughts, but we have, the moral of the story is we have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
Right? We have a lot of thoughts, and a lot of them are negative. Yeah. And if you think about when God created us thousands of years ago, like we had to question everything because we lived out in the woods. Like if the leaves ruffled, we had to like be scared of a lion. That's just the way we have the same brain, right? And if you think about it, the way thoughts come into our brain, they go through this irrational, emotional part first before it gets to the prefrontal lobe where you actually have time to think about the thought. So many people live in this emotional world where they get a thought, the thought has a feeling, the feeling leads to an emotion, and they never question the thought, right? And so one of the things in the book that I think has helped me tremendously, and I know has helped, our family, is when you get a thought, question the thought. Is this thought true? Is this thought helpful? If it's not, replace it with a thought, right? Like you are not your thoughts. I mean, thank God we're not our thoughts, right? Because I get a lot of stupid thoughts. I just replace them very fast 100%. To keep them from getting out of control. But we do have tons of thoughts, and learning how to control your emotions, you don't control your thoughts, but you control everything after that. You control the story you attach to the thought. You control whether you keep the thought, whether you throw the thought out. Being able to control your own thoughts is life-changing, and it's changed my life. There's no doubt about it.
I think what's also life-changing is knowing that you aren't your thoughts.
No doubt.
Because sometimes, for a long time, I just thought, well, I think it must be, it's in my brain. It's my brain coming up with it. It must be me. And what I did not understand was that our brain is very literal and does not understand the difference between true and false.
No doubt.
And I didn't know that.
No doubt.
And that was like a game changer for me.
Yeah.
And so like if you're watching, or how about this example? If you say, I'm an idiot for doing that, and that's just a descriptive way of saying what you did. It's just being descriptive. Your brain, though, is like, so we are in fact an idiot.
No doubt.
And accepts that as truth.
No doubt.
And I didn't understand any of that.
No doubt.
And so when I read that in your book, I was like, you know what, this is so true. We do have so many negative thoughts, but what you talk about, and it's a chapter, garbage in, garbage out, is so true. What you put in, and what you put in, your brain is receiving as truth.
No
and
doubt.
So the people you're around, and kind of talk to me about this, the people you surround yourself with, what you put in, what you're doing, what you're looking at on your phone, kind of speak to that and how the brain's taking that.
I think, what you put in, you're going to get out. And this is a funny, but this is a true story. And you can, ask Stephanie. So if you go back 15 years or so ago, like when I really started reading every day, I really started trying to change, my thought processes. Like I will be taking a shower while Stephanie is getting dressed, and I will look over at her and I'll say, Stephanie, can you believe that you're getting dressed in the same room as the greatest coach in the state of Mississippi or the greatest coach in the state of Missouri? Like I've done that for years.
Yeah.
Now, you may not believe that I am, and but I've said that to myself so many times.
Yeah.
You're going to have a hard time convincing me that I'm not in that category because I just say it. What comes out of your mouth is crucial. Bill Buckner, who played first base for the Boston Red Sox. This is a true story. You can go look it up. You can Google it. They're in the World Series. He's a Gold Glove, like an 8-time Gold Glove first baseman. Mm-hmm. And a reporter asked him a week before the World Series, what's your best dream? Your biggest dream. His biggest dream was to hit a home run to win the game. Mm-hmm. What's your worst nightmare? My worst nightmare is to let a ball roll between my legs in the bottom of the 9th inning to lose the ball game. Mm-hmm. You get to game 6. The ball's hit to him with bases loaded, and the ball goes between his legs. They lose the game. They lose the World Series. He spoke it into, you can't speak it. Like, we can't help what we think. Mm-hmm. We can most definitely help what comes out of our mouth. It should never come out of our mouth because, like you said, our brains just don't know the difference. Now, then you go think about, like, what are you putting in? I started years ago, like, keeping a gratitude journal, physically sitting down, writing down 3 things in the morning that I'm grateful for. If you start your day off with 3 things that you're grateful for, it happens in about, 60 seconds, 2 minutes it takes to do that. But you're wiring your brain to look for things that are positive that you're grateful for instead of, things that you're hateful for. Because what you cannot do is you cannot have 2 thoughts at the same time. Like you cannot be hateful and grateful at the same time. It's impossible. So you just got to keep feeding yourself good things. Listen to positive people. Hang out with positive people. Like you just can't allow yourself to be around people that are negative. You can't watch a bunch of garbage, right? Like my wife, you need to ask my wife about Days of Our Lives, right? There's just some things like you got to kind of like, you got to be careful what you put in because, like when you squeeze an orange, you're not going to get apple juice, right? You're going to get orange juice, right? Because that's what's inside. So when we're squeezed in our life, what's going to come out? Whatever we've put in, and one of the things I'm trying to do now, and I started this several years ago, was to, in the morning, I'll read about 3 books at a time, a chapter. One of those books has to be a faith-based book. I just have to have that. Like for me, I just have to have that in my life to keep me where I need to be because it's easy for me to drift, the other way. 2 of the podcasts are going to be faith-based podcasts that I'll listen to because I just need that in my life, to help me be the best version of myself so that I can show up for this clown over here, Eli, or I can show up for my wife or my own kids. Like I have to put good stuff in because I'm no different than anybody else. If I was to sit around and watch garbage all day long and just listen to the world, watch the news, I would be just as negative as a lot of people in this world. And I just choose to not be a negative energy vampire. I'm just not going to do that.
Well, and if you, people will hang out with certain people. I mean, even I'm not like talking kids too. I'm talking adults, like in everybody in general. They'll have certain friends, and who aren't feeding positive, feeding life. And you'll hear somebody say, "Well, I don't do that though, so it's okay. It's fine to hang out with them. I don't do that. I don't." No, it does matter.
Sure.
Because what they're saying, what we just talked about, you may not be absorbing it as truth, but your brain is.
No doubt about it.
And so that's why even when you're hanging out with people and you're like, well, I love this person. They're such a great person. And yeah, they may be negative, but I'm not engaging in that negative talk, but your brain is.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's really important. It's really the garbage in, garbage out is not just about words, but it's about who you're surrounding yourself with. And if you're wanting to surround yourself, or if you're wanting to grow and be better as a leader and be better as a person, I love to surround myself with people that speak in a way, act in a way, and talk in a way that I am not there yet. Because
no doubt.
that's the only way I'm going to get there. Like I can't, if I follow myself as the blind leading the blind, like you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Like, so that's what I would say to that. I would also, have you heard of the stop sign method in your head? Have you heard of that? I recently heard of it. It's where the brain is very visual. And when you have a negative thought, you throw a visual stop sign in your head. Have you heard that?
No, I've not. Well, I've heard of the red, yellow, green light system as far as, being able to, stop, doing the things that you shouldn't do, be able to, just go cruise through the things that are good in your life.
Yeah.
And the yellow has always kind of been the caution, being able to think about it and make a decision. I have heard a lot of that.
The stop sign, it's new to me.
Yeah.
And I started doing it. Like whenever I have a negative thought, I throw that stop sign visual up because I guess the brain's very visual.
Sure.
I love learning about the brain, by the way. Like I love it. And so you throw that stop sign up. After you throw the stop sign up, because you're telling your brain, stop with that thought, you replace it with a positive thought.
For sure.
And it's actually very helpful. It's interesting.
I'm going to tell you what I've done, and this is funny, but it's true, is like your visual of a stop sign. I have a visual too.
Okay.
It's a hairnet. Okay. It's a hairnet that has a door and it has a bouncer. Right. And so I have this dream of creating this magical hairnet that you can absolutely put on, and it's got a bouncer. And when you come to the door, thought comes to the door.
Yeah.
You get two questions. Is this thought true? If it's not true, then the bouncer throws them out.
Yeah.
If it is true, then the second thought is it helpful? If it's not helpful, the bouncer's going to throw it out. And we're just going to roll on about our business. Like I've already created a design on my phone. I just got to figure out how to sell it. But I think that would be really cool because there's a lot of people in this world that need that magical hairnet to control their thoughts because they absolutely cannot.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. It's that visual that your brain.
No doubt.
It's so fascinating.
No doubt.
And I can talk about the brain all day. For sure. Anyway, okay, let's kind of go on. So garbage in, garbage out. And then let's kind of talk about too failure and not existing. And I think that's hard for a lot of us to process and understand.
For sure.
So kind of talk about Kobe Bryant. And do you think we've defined failure incorrectly as a culture?
Well, I think, I had breakfast this morning with a guy that was, wanting to do some things in life and wanting to move forward. And, what he said was he's scared to fail. Okay. So the biggest drawback in most people, in most things, is the fear of failure. I don't do it because I'm afraid I'm going to fail. Well, Kobe Bryant, on an interview with Jermel Hill on BET years ago, his rookie year in a playoff game, he airballs 3 shots at the end of the game to keep it to go into overtime. He misses 3 of them that would have won it. Airballs them, no rim, no net or nothing. They get into overtime and he airballs 2 more. 5 straight shots, he don't hit nothing. They lose the ball game. And so she's asking him about, at what point in time did you start to think of yourself as a failure? Like 5 in a row and y'all lost the game. And he got tickled. He started laughing. He's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean failure? What does failure mean? Like he said, it shouldn't even be a word. Like, it's a joke. The only way you fail is if you quit. If you don't quit, you can't fail. So he said, what I did was start to ask myself questions on why did I airball 5? And he dove into and he figured out the year before he had played 32 high school games. In the NBA, you play like 500, right? So at the end of the season, he was tired. His legs weren't in shape. He wasn't fit to play that long. So what he said is, I need to have a better offseason program. Like, it was never, I'm a failure. He didn't make the shot, right? So, like, how many times in life do we not do what our dreams are begging us, or God is begging us to do, because we're afraid we're going to fail. We're afraid somebody's going to talk about the book being no good. We're afraid somebody's going to make fun of the podcast that's no good. We're afraid that, the enough, we're not smart enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not big enough, we're not the enough syndrome can absolutely paralyze us. And the fear of failure has just got to be kick to the curb, man. Like, you've got to reframe, like, take that word out of your vocabulary, and failure's not a part of it. What failure is an opportunity to learn how something didn't work and to try to figure out another way to make it work. One of my leadership coaches, when I years ago made this analogy that if I was single, and if I was, in a place that had single women, And I told my friend, like, I sure would like, she is pretty. Like, I would like to ask her out, but well, go out. No, I could not ask her out. Why not? Why can't you ask her out? He's like, what if she says no? He said, well, what if she says no? You're not dating her now. So what if she says yes? Like if you go ask her and she says no, nothing's lost. You weren't dating her before you walked over there. Like failure's just got to be reprogrammed in your mind as, it's the first opportunity to figure something out, right? And it's not, one of the biggest compliments that I've received here in Nixa was after year one, Phil Wicklewar was asked, we were at some event or something, and somebody asked Phil Wicklewar, what is the biggest difference between this year that we just come out of and the year before I got here? And without even thinking, he said, our kids aren't scared to fail. Like they don't run around scared about they're going to get blessed out for making a mistake. Like they're just free to play. Like we're going to try to have a different relationship with failure. Like failure in my life has been a blessing. If you read that book, you know that there's been a lot of times where I absolutely messed something up or I failed in what people would call failure, but what come out of it was a blessing. Like failures lead to blessings, right? Like I think God will never give us more than we can handle, but he is going to give us things to help us become more of who we need to be. And that's biblical. You know what I'm saying? Like trials create, a better version of ourselves. And there's no such thing as a life without. Life is hard, right? Like it doesn't matter who you are, what you are either going through hard crap right now, you just come out of it, or you're fixing to go into it. So the blessing is the other side of hard is awesome. The other side of death is awesome. Like the other side, of things not going your way normally turns out pretty good if you keep the faith and keep pushing and just don't get discouraged and quit. Because if you quit, it's over. You know what I mean? Like that's the end. Like that's failure, so just don't quit.
And I think too, to what you said, God does allow us to go through stuff.
No doubt about it.
And no, it's not that he's like, I'm going to punish you and make you go through this, but he does allow us to go through things.
Read Job, right? Yeah, if you ever get to thinking your life's bad, read Job, right? Read, like crap happens, man. That's one of my favorite analogies in the Bible is, the furnace is for silver, and the way gold is made, and you think about, like gold's put into a furnace and the temperature's turned up, you scrape the impurities off, you put it back in, you turn up the temperature, you scrape the impurities off, you do that until it's pure gold. What are the trials and tribulations in our life doing? Hopefully it's scraping off the bad so that we can be who he wanted us to be anyway. You know what I mean? So, if we're going to be thankful, and I tell Stephanie this all the time, and it's hard, and I don't, I know people sometimes think this is maybe stupid, but if we're going to be grateful for the good things in our life. How many times a year somebody say, man, thank you, God, for blessing me today? Well, if you're going to be thankful in the good, don't you have to be thankful in the bad? Right? Like, there's still blessings that come out of the bad too. It's just going to be on the other side of the hard. And, I think when you can rearrange the way you look at adversity and, I think, and understand that God's working through all of it, it gives you a chance. My favorite Bible verse now has turned into Romans 8:28, for we know that in all things God works for good for those who love him. Well, what it says is in all things. It don't say good things, it says all things, and it says we know he's working, he's not asleep, and he's working for the good, right? That don't mean that it's all going to be good. It means everything's going to turn out good eventually, you know what I'm saying? So we got to have a little bit more faith.
Well, and John, had you not gone through any of the adversity you had gone through, would you even be doing any of the stuff
Probably
that you
not.
do today?
None. Like, first of all, if I don't get fired at Pearl, I don't meet Bobby Hall. And if I don't meet Bobby Hall, I'm not, successful as a football coach, right? Like, if we don't go through the fire with Haley and the seizures, like we're not as close and we're not as, deep in our faith. The trial, anybody listening, if they sit down and think about some of the worst parts of their life, they can probably fast forward now to, and there was a blessing that come out of that. Like there's blessings, it's not, you can't think, that God does everything, bad and that there's not a blessing on the other side of it.
And how, whenever people are like, God sends, like he'll send the boat to help you or whatever, if we don't go through things in our personal lives, we can't be the boat he's going to send to somebody.
No way.
I mean, and
no way.
And it's like, I'm not saying like, because really terrible things happen to people.
Sure.
So I am not saying that
Most
things
definitely.
happen. I am saying, though, that because of what we go through, that's hard. And the tools, if you do what you just said, if you look at it and you change your perspective and you say, the tools I'm gathering are a blessing. They're not just a blessing for myself and the toolbox that I have, but they're also going to be a blessing to somebody else that God has before us in our future.
For sure.
That he's like, okay, John, you're going through this now. So-and-so is going to go through this 2 years from now. And because of what you're developing now in your hard moment, even though it sucks, your boat is going to be what takes somebody else out.
No doubt.
And gives hope to someone else.
No doubt.
But I think our culture does not really favor hardship.
Yeah.
It doesn't favor going through hardship.
That's right.
And it's very easy for us to be like, oh, this is so uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to deal with the discomfort. But if you can deal with that, I mean, don't you think? Like we really kind of have a baby culture.
What is I think prominent, in society today is that when hard times hit, if I don't have, a certain amount of faith, that things are going to be okay and that there could be a blessing come out of this, I think what does happen is you turn to things to cope, whether that's alcohol or whether that's drugs or whether that's, I think we're incapable sometimes of handling the hard if we're not prepared a little bit. How do you handle hard things without having a faith in the good Lord, right? Like that's how you run into all these issues that we have today with, drugs and alcohol and the various addictions that people run into. They're coping mechanisms, right? Because they can't deal with the hard. I think if we can change our relationship with the hard, then we're better off. I thought about this earlier when you were talking about the associations. I think with associations, we need to put a time to it. Okay. Like, I don't think you can be in a bubble and just hang out with positive Christians. Okay. Because if you hang out with just positive Christians, how do you ever go make a difference in somebody's life? Right. So I think you have to kind of, there are 5-minute people. There's 5-hour people, there's 5-day people, there's 5-year, my group is going to be I can go hang out with for 5 days. Now, there are some people I need to hang out with them for 5 minutes. And maybe 5 minutes a day or 5 minutes a week can be enough of a light to help them see that maybe I want to be. And this is a true story. Stephanie, when I took on the transformational process of trying to be better, Stephanie had a temper. Right? I'm talking about a temper. When I say temper, 0 wick. Like Kendall had no wick.
Girl, that's me too.
But it was genetic. Like it was her dad had no wick. Okay. So she got it naturally. So I asked my coach, my leadership guy, I'm like, okay, I'm learning how to pause.
Yeah. And
I'm learning how to think before I act. I said, so tell me, how do I teach my wife this? Because my wife's got to have this pause business, man. Like there's no pause. It's stimulus response, just like that. Okay. So the bad news is he says, you can't teach her nothing. You can't teach her nothing. He said, what you can be is you can be the pause. And you can be the pause so good that she sees something she likes and she starts moving toward the pause. And I can say this today without hesitation. You're not going to make her mad today. Not without pausing, not without getting her mind right, not without thinking a little bit before it comes out of her mouth. So, unintentionally, that's how we influence other people. Be the light. Like when you walk into the room, brighten the light, and people will see something that they might like, and then they might start to move like that. But you can't make somebody do nothing, right? You can't make somebody have a good attitude. You can't make somebody. We need to be the light, right? We don't have to go around throwing Bible verses out. Just be a kind person. Be a kind person, and there's going to be somebody that you're going to affect that's going to be like, man, he's kind. I want to be kind too. You know what I mean? Like that's how you can. Change the world is one person at a time, just 100%. By being nice, being kind. 100%.
It's funny you mentioned that about Stephanie. So when I was reading the book, I chuckled a lot because there was so much that I was like, oh yeah, that's it's like I'm the short wick. That's right. I chuckled so many times because there's so much. When you read this book, guys, there is a lot of things you can learn. There's a lot of things that you can apply to your life. I mean, there's just a lot of good tidbits. There's challenges, all these things. But I think the thing I love the most is how relatable it is because again, that's why I chuckled so much because I was like, oh, her wick grew. My wick needs to grow.
No doubt.
So anyway, okay. I actually wanted to talk to you about refining, adversity refining and all of that and what it does and how I have it in my notes. But I kind of want to transition into from refinement because like I said, there's a lot of tools that we can develop. There's a lot of tools that once you're developing, you can whip them out in those hard moments just to help you get through it. However, in the book, you talk about Haley, and both of you can speak to this. Haley had seizures. That's all I'm going to say right now because I want you guys to be able to speak to it. You guys, my podcast, everything about like when I speak, the podcast, everything is about tools, and it's very similar in development and all the things. The one thing out of all the things I go through, the one thing I cannot see past, the one thing I cannot, when it comes to needing tools, my tools disappear. The mindset cannot shift, and it is when my children are going through something. It's the one thing. And when I was reading in the book and you were talking about Haley, I almost teared up because you guys know that my daughter, our fourth daughter, was in the NICU for 11 days. And again, it's the one thing that you just freeze and you feel so helpless. So, okay, in the moment, can you speak to, and what I love about this too is how, again, normal you guys are. It wasn't, you guys went through it. And in the book, you even talk about how you went through it. Briefly, you talk about it. You didn't have tools in that moment. Mm-mm. It was hard. So speak to people who are like that, where the one thing they cannot see outside of is their children and feeling helpless. And then also hindsight. What do you think you can say to parents that you would give them in hindsight that they can have? Like me, what can I have in real time that in hindsight?
Go ahead.
Well, I think, the only thing that helped us, and then we're so ashamed, and why did we not come up with it earlier, is we just had to give it to God. Mm-hmm. There was nothing we could do. We were doing everything we could do. We were taking her to treatment centers. She was taking like 27 pills a day at one point.
And that was, can you give them backstory on it?
She has what's called POTS, is posterior orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Mm-hmm. And her heart rate rises and her blood pressure falls at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so it would cause her to faint. And about 50% of the people also have seizures. Mm-hmm. So she had seizures also. Mm-hmm. And she had just turned 16 when this started. Mm-hmm. And then at first, we did every test. We were just determined we were going to make her better. We were going to help her. She wasn't going to go through this, Mm-hmm. She was a 4.0 student, and we went to talking about she's not going to pass the 11th grade because she's going to have to go homeschool or, she's going to have to drop out or whatever. But there's nothing we could do. Mm-hmm. Once we finally gave it to God, and then you think, well, how did God feel when his son was going through these terrible things? Mm-hmm. He could have done something, but really he wasn't going to. Mm-hmm. So, that's how we were. Mm-hmm. There's nothing we can do except to give it to him. And he has a plan already. Mm-hmm. He knows how this is going to work out. Mm-hmm. So we've just got to let it. Mm-hmm. We're going to do everything we can, but we're just going to let God take care of it.
Yeah.
And that like that decision, we were laying in bed one night, just totally broken people, because when your kids hurt, like we had turned on each other, like we were not living right, acting right, talking right. We weren't doing anything right. Like we were 100%, broken humans. But that night, we laid in bed and just kind of held hands and said a prayer because we were broken. And we both had grown up in the church and probably should have gotten back to that quicker. But, it is what it is. Like we were where we were. And, but when we did finally, allow him to kind of take the reins, because we learned that, we couldn't fix her, things picked up a little bit. Like it wasn't like she was cured, but, we were able to sleep. We were able to, you know, and really we weren't living like we should have been living. You know, we've had other adversities with our kids since that time that have not been as bad because, you know, there is this belief, you know, and it's, for me, it may be a very weird belief that, you know, God's in control of this. I'm not driving this ship. He's driving this ship. Our job is to love, serve, and care. And I'm going to love, serve, and care about my kids from now till the day that I'm dead, but I'm not going to control everything. Like I can't play God. So, you know, there are going to be bad things happen. There's going to be things they go through that we're going to go through with them, and we're going to show up and we're going to love them. You know what I'm saying? But like, we don't control it. Like, we're not driving the ship, man. Like, you know, he's the coach. We're just playing the game, right? So, you know, when you give that up and understand that, you know, like, you can't control everything. And I just try not to worry about all the things that I cannot control. And we had, you know, after your episode, you know, like Cash, after one day gets transferred to Mercy because there's no NICU room, right? He needs oxygen. There's no oxygen here, so we got to send him. You know, he's 1 day old. And, you know, Haley freaked out. And, you know, like, and Stephanie, she didn't freak out. She was pretty good, you know. But like, my first thought was, man, maybe God just wants her somewhere else. Like, wants him somewhere else. Like, let's go. Let's not, you know, like, don't worry about it. Like, let's just take a ride. It's gonna be a 2-mile ride. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like, and it worked out fine. Like, we worry about so much stuff. Well, why do we worry so much? When I think sometimes I heard this stat that we, of all the things we worry about, 85% of them never come true. Of the 15% that does come true, 12% of the time it works out better than we thought. So only 3% of the stuff that we worry about happens to be as bad or worse. I am not going to sit around and worry about 3%. I'm going to live in the 97%, and when the 3% happens, I'm going to roll with it. Like, that's my choice. And I would say this, that's anybody's choice. If you surround yourself with the right people, if you put the right stuff in, you know, if you associate with the right things and continually coach yourself up, like, you know, I think that world is available to everybody. So when if you ask, why do you write a book? Why do you speak? Why do you do what you do? It's because I want other people to live like that. I want them to get up and think, man, this is going to be the greatest day that I've ever had. We have this thing in our head, this system called the reticular activating system, right? You buy a Kia Telluride. I've never seen a Kia Telluride on the road until we bought one. And now I see them everywhere I go. Yep. Right? Well, if I set in my mind that I'm going to see positive, I'm fixing to go find everything in this world that's good. And I'm not going to notice the crap that's bad, right? Like, if I'm going to set in my mind that I'm going to look for the things to be grateful for, I'm going to find it. You're going to find what you're searching for. If you want to be negative and you want to be miserable and you want to be a true pain in the butt, man, that world is wide open to you. We just ain't going to hang out a whole lot.
I remember hearing about that from somebody. It's again, the brain is fascinating.
It's unbelievable.
It is. And you know what? The other thing you mentioned, coach yourself. So, and this actually goes back, this whole thing biblical too, when David said, bless the Lord, oh my soul. David wasn't like, oh my soul, bless the Lord. He was speaking to it. Yeah. He was speaking to it and commanding it. And what's interesting is we actually do have the ability to command our brain. Right. And I like you, Steph, I'm telling you, like, when it comes to my kids, it is the one thing that shuts me down. And I am a big in faith, and even in the NICU, I sat there just frozen. Sure. And I was like, I cannot. And it was like a weekend, and I finally was like, I still don't know what to say to you, God. Like, I still don't. Like, I'm so freaked out. I'm so, like, I'm in fight or flight. I can't shake it. And so I was like, I can play worship music. And that's all I got. That's all I got. And I was like, but I'm going to play this worship music over and over, because I know if I play it over and over, my brain is going to receive it in some way, you know? And so the other thing too is, Evie is 8 weeks old. And I just started doing this in the last week, y'all. Okay. Just started doing this in the last week. So up until now, I'm telling you, I've been in like a weird frozen state, not doing great. But I was like, wait a minute. I have the power to talk to my brain. I get to command it. It does not get to command me. And so, and I have to, this is a muscle that I am working because my brain likes to protect me. Because like you said earlier, a leaf rustle back in old times was a lion could possibly be there. And so our brains love to protect us, even though we don't necessarily need that protection. And so I say this to say I have to do this a lot because my brain wants to try and override it. But I talk to my brain and I say, here's the deal. Evie's face is pink. Her lips are not blue. And I tell my brain all the reasons, and I'll even say that. I'll say, this is, and some of you guys are going to be like, Megan, that's weird, but this is what I say. Thank you for trying to protect me. Thank you for trying to protect Evie, but we don't need your protection right now.
No doubt about it.
And so I'm still kind to myself, but I am telling my brain what it needs to know because it likes to override us a lot. So that's what I have to say about that. But again, that's very recent.
Well, I heard this the other day, like, emotions and feelings are gifts from God, right? Like we have them and they're awesome, but they deserve to be in the passenger seat or the back seat. They should not be driving the car. Like they should be in the car, but not driving the car. Like we have to drive our feelings and emotions. And the way we do that is what are the stories that we tell ourselves, right? Like my story is my story, and I'm going to be good to me because it's so easy to, let that negative stuff creep in.
100%. Okay, kind of talking about that, I wanted to hit on that because I know there's so many people that when they read that book as parents, I know they're going to resonate with that. And so I really wanted to make sure that we hit on that. Mountain 1 and Mountain 2. Can you talk about that? It's very much what we were just talking about, but I really liked what you called it and how you described getting there and why it was necessary. Can you talk about Mountain 1 and Mountain 2?
Yeah, I think really in a simple thing, I think we're all born Mountain 1 people. We're all born very early and taught to achieve, taught to, climb this mountain of success, to drive the nice car, have the nice house, how many games can we win, how much money can we make. Mountain 1 is very much about, putting your success in things, right? Whereas Mountain 2, it's more of a significant, right? It's success versus significant. Mountain 2 is when you start putting yourself into other people, when you start climbing with other people, when you start living with a purpose, when you start understanding that, there's more to life than just you, right? When there's more to life than, how much money you make, or, it's just the belief that, I need to add value. I need to be of service. There is a purpose bigger than myself because we live in a very materialistic world, right? Like it's very much achievement driven. And, I heard Rocky Balboa or Sylvester Stallone say, like he fought hard to make Rocky. Like he wrote it, he wanted to direct it, and he wanted to star in it, and nobody wanted to give him a chance. He finally, after years, got it done, and it makes millions, and he's on top of the mountain, but he was on top of the first mountain. He said he got to the top of the mountain, and he was lonely. There was nobody with him. Like, it's not like money will never buy happiness. I mean, I think there's a study out there that says, as a family, if you make $60,000 or $54,000 or whatever, there's absolutely zero difference in happiness in that family and the family that makes $5 million, right? There's no difference. Like money's not ever going to buy that. What is going to, where you're going to find happiness or joy is going to be in the life of others. There's a great book, Life is a Gift by Bob and Judy Fisher. They interview 100 hospice patients. So they're within, say, a month of death, and they ask them all the same question. And they ask them, what are your regrets? Not one out of 100 said, man, I regret not working more. I regret not making more money. I regret not having a BMW. None of them. What were their regrets, right? They didn't have to spend enough time with their family. They didn't take the big trips that they wanted to take with their family. Like everything was family and friends and faith related. Nothing was about Mountain 1, And I think for us to be on Mountain 2, most of the times there has to be a valley. There has to be something hard that we have to go through. We got to fall off a cliff and be refound on another mountain. And unfortunately, I'm that type of guy. Like I've got to go through the hard to figure it out. Now, some people can learn from others. That is not me. Like I had to mess it up and figure it out. And for us, honestly, that Valley season was Haley getting sick. Like that was the eye opening, because up until that time, I was 100% about football. Like it was football, right? And I thought about family every once in a while, and about faith, not much. You know what I'm saying? But then when you go through that, it kind of opens your eyes to, man, this might be out of whack. Like I might have this jacked up, right? Because, I've never seen a Loomis money truck following a hearse to a funeral, right? I've never seen a funeral, with a body full of cash in like you're not going to take it with you, right? Like we are meant to serve and to add value and to make a difference in this world and to climb with people, so that if we can achieve, and I'm not saying having things are bad, money will 100% make the individual more of who they already are. So if you are a selfish person, you will be more selfish. If you are a giving person, it's going to make you a better giver. So there's nothing wrong. The thought is like, what's the purpose though? Is the purpose in me or is the purpose in somebody else? If the purpose is in me, I'll never be happy. But if the purpose is in other people, like that's where true life, I think true happiness, true joy is found. And it's being on the right mountain, climbing for the right reason, understanding that you have a faith and a purpose that's bigger than yourself. And, I think that's the good life.
You were talking about purpose in that, and it's interesting. Another thing that I have learned is the brain does better when it knows it has purpose. And then the second thing is encouraging other people. I completely forgot the statistic in this fact, but in a roundabout worded way, when you encourage and you serve other people, more chemicals are released.
No doubt.
Guys, help me out. What's that? Like endorphins or what?
Yeah,
anyway,
sure.
You know what I'm saying.
The good chemicals.
Yes. The good chemicals are released. And so it is very interesting that, what you just said, and purpose and serving others, and the brain actually does better doing that anyway.
No doubt.
And so and I think the other thing too is because you're also talking about, how you are just somebody who you have to learn the hard way. You have to go. This is what I kind of think often, because I am very similar in that I'm just like, God, why do I keep having to go through really crappy things? Because like, that my heart is to show hope through things. And so because my heart's like that, you're just going to keep serving it up. I'm just like, but I really do. I do think that God knows, because there's a plan and purpose spoken over our life. And so I do believe that he possibly does allow people like you and me and other people who have really gone through it to say, I know your heart. I know what you're going to do with it. And I'm going to allow you to kind of experience this.
Sure. Well, I also think this. I think if God is real, right, and we believe that story, then Satan is real too, right? And Satan's more powerful than we are. Now, he's not more powerful than God, but he's more powerful than us. So Satan's working too. So there is bad things that, Satan's throwing our way, because there is some warfare going on. And I had a friend share this with me a couple of years ago that, if Satan's not after you, then you should be worried, because he's probably got you where he wants you anyway, right? But when you start doing good things and you start trying to add value and you start trying to, push the good Lord's work, like you are going to you're going to come under attack. That's just the way it works.
And it probably makes him real aggravated when you take what he threw at you to diminish you and you use it for God's purpose. And you're like, okay, cool.
I'm going to say that's aggravating.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So, okay. I want to talk real quick about never quitting. And so what we're talking about, guys, there's so much more in the book, but because it's a podcast and we're limited on time, I could only get little bits. So please go buy the book to get the full, because it's very much worth it. And again, like I said, you're going to get some chuckles just because they are just, ordinary people. But quitting. Your dad, can you tell us a little bit about your dad? And he was going to let you quit, but he made it an uncomfortable scenario if you did quit. He didn't really give you a great option as a second. And then I have some questions after that as a coach for parents. So go ahead and kind of give us that backstory on quitting.
Well, when I get to a junior college, I'm going to go play football. And when I get there, I'm homesick because I'm a mama's boy. My girlfriend had just broken up with me, and I didn't think I'd ever have another one. So I was sick about that. And then I get this coach, and in them days you could practice 3 times a day, and it was hard, man. It was miserable. Coach was mean, like it was brutal. And then my roommate or best friend one of my best friends from high school was a really good football player. Well, he decided he was going to quit, and so he comes back to the dorm, calls his dad, and says, Dad, I'm going to quit today. I'm coming home. And his dad said, okay, come on home. So then he leaves, and I'm still going out to practice. I'm still homesick. I'm still thinking about that girl that, bless her heart, she missed out, didn't she? But anyway, and practice is still hard. Coach is still mean. And now I've got this thought running in my head. Man, my friend quit. Like, he's living a good life right now. Like, he's at the house, like, chilling, and I'm still at football. And I'm like, I think I'm going to call my dad too, right? That thought, right? So that thought started, and I started rolling with it, creating a story about how good it would be. So I go turn my key into Coach. I said, Coach, I'm going to quit, man. I can't do it, and I'm going to go home. And so I go back to the dorm, and I call my dad, and I said, I'm coming home today. I quit. And he said, well, you can quit if you want to, but you're not welcome here. And he hung up. And it was one of those that, like, I just knew, like, he wasn't playing, like, I wasn't going home. So then I sat down there, and I thought, where am I going to go? Like, I wasn't sure where to go. I didn't have any family that lived anywhere around there. Like, I tell you, I'm going to go back and get my key back. So I went back to Coach. I said, Coach, I think I made a mistake. I don't want to quit. Can I have my key back? Well, what a lesson in perspective. I didn't hate football as bad as I thought, right? Like, I got 3 meals a day. I had a group of buddies that I could hang out with, and I got to play football. And from that day forward, like, even the bad things or the tough things or the parts that were hard, led to me being able to play football, get my school paid for, meet Stephanie, coach, nothing happens, in this life like it is without that, So when I was 19, 18 years old and thought, man, my dad don't love me as much as my friend's dad, in hindsight, who loved who the most, right? Like, he loved me enough to know that if you're going to quit because it's too hard, that ain't it, okay? Now, I'm not saying it's not right to ever quit. Like, I just advised a friend back home. He called and asked about his son. His son wanted to quit football after spring football in Mississippi, and he'd give me the reasons why. And he said, what do you think? I said, I think it's legitimate. Like, he plays 2 other sports. He's not going to play. He's not big enough. He's like that. Like, I was okay with that. And it was at the conclusion of an entire school year, at the conclusion of spring ball. He wasn't quitting in the middle of a season. He wasn't, giving up on something that the team was counting on him. No, like, I'm not saying it's not okay to walk away at some point in time, but I was quitting because it was hard, right? And to quit something because it's hard is ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Like, and to quit something that I heard the Mike Tomlin for the Pittsburgh Steelers say his son came to him his junior year and said, I'm going to quit football. And Coach Tomlin said, well, what are you going to do from 3 to 5 o'clock, right? This 3 to 5 when we're at work and you're at home and you're not supervised. What are you going to do? And he said, I don't know. I'm just going to be at the house. And he said, no, you're not. You're going to play football. Now, if you can come and tell me what you're going to do, but you're not going to join the 3 to 5 club. Like, you're not going to do that. So the kid had to play football because he didn't have anything else to do. But it was to keep him out of that, man, if we're left to ourselves at that age, it ain't going to be good. You know what I'm saying? Like, the more they can be involved with, the better. Yep. Occupy their mind, because now with these mass communication devices that can, destroy us, it's even harder for young people today. So, number one, I'm thankful to my dad for not allowing me to quit, because I was trying to do something for an emotional reason, that I was homesick and, life was hard, but he knew better, right? So thankful to him for that, that you just can't, you gotta be able to do hard things, right? And kind of our motto this year that I stole from John Maxwell through going through his training is that everything worthwhile is uphill, right? Everything. Like, you're not, if it's easy, it's not going to be good, right? Like, if it's easy money, it's bad money. If it's like anything that's going to be great, there's going to be some work involved, and it's not going to be comfortable. Like, it is what it is. It takes what it takes. So,
and what would you say to a player, or it doesn't even have to be sports, just somebody who's doing something and they have a goal and they're really good at whatever it is, but they're not in the position they want to be in? What would you speak to them? So, because a lot of kids are going to be like, well, I'm going to quit.
Sure.
And it's not going my way, and I know I'm good. And what would you speak to them?
Well, I would say the same thing. Like, if we go through life trying to please ourselves, we will never be in a place of fulfillment for ourselves. When we turn ourselves over, when I am in service to her, when I am about what can prop her up, how can I make her life better? That's when the good stuff happens. All right. So like, are we going to get what we want all the time? That's not even life, right? Like I've had jobs I didn't like. I worked 2 summers as a gopher in a bricklaying business where I'm just making the mud and throwing I hated it, right? But like everything serves its purpose. Like you go back to what's the greatest skill in America, and this is biblical, is humility. Humility is not I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. Humility is you tell me what I'm going to do and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. You want me to do? I'm all in. Like that's just, to me. You think about what's a parent. What are you? You're not. You might be in charge of the team, but you're putting your kids on a pedestal. Like you're raising them up. You want something better for them than you want for yourself. You know what I'm saying? So, we have always just, we can all be selfish, right? And with these cell phones and social media, we always think about ourselves first. We're ingrained to be selfish. Like that's the way, we think about us, right? But I think when we can, get outside of ourselves, right, and think about the team and put the team first, the guys that stick out in my mind 32 years in this business are the guys that were team first, tell me what to do, and I'll go run through a freaking wall, and I don't care. Those are the guys that stick out in my mind. You give me a guy that, won't change positions or won't flip sides of the ball or won't, it's going to be a tough life because if you can't sacrifice for the team, I'm on a team now. I'm on Team Perry. If I can't sacrifice for Stephanie, Haley, Cash, Georgia, Jay, right? How hard is life, right? Like we live in a world where we have to be able to sacrifice. And, again, what are we selling ourselves on? Like, are we grateful to be on the greatest team in the state, or are we hateful because, that's exactly what I want to do? You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a fantastic lesson in humility that can come back and, add value later in life for sure.
I think humility, and I'm going to be very short on this because I could be very long-winded on humility, but humility, in my opinion, and what you see in the Bible, like you said, is the greatest.
No doubt.
To me, it's the sole greatest trait of a leader.
No doubt.
Anyway, I'm not going to.
When you're around somebody that possesses it, they stick out. Because most people do not, right? Like, I have a friend that I'm thinking of right now, in Mountain Brook, Alabama, that's a head football coach that is, probably the best example I know of humility, and it's just oozing in everything he does. Now, if you went to him right now and you said, Coach Yeager, next year I need you to be the O-line coach and not the head coach, he'd be, yes, sir, let's go. And he'd be the best O-line coach in the state of Alabama. Like, that's just, that's the way he is. And I think, that's what I hope to be. That's what I want to be. I want to be on the team. And I've been on teams since I was 5 years old. I just want to be on the team, right? That's the reason why I still coach. It's the reason why I still, because I want to have a team. I'm part of a team. I don't have to be the team. I just want to be on the team. Like, let's all go chase this together in whatever role, whatever way, whatever. I think our job is to prop other people up and send people out, to be better than us. You know what I'm saying? That's that would be my take.
Yep, 100%.
You got that, Eli?
Look at Eli right now.
Dead asleep. You're going to listen to the recording.
So my son Eli's here. I brought him. He's 16. He plays football for Perry. And I was about to call him out. I was about to be like, hey, look at that boy over there. So anyway.
You stayed up too late playing video games.
He's not a gamer. He's not a gamer. He's a...
I never was either.
Yeah. Well, he does play them, sure. But he's not like it's very far few and in between. Okay, I kind of want to talk. I want to talk about this. This is why I wanted Steph to come, is because to team and what you do, and being a spouse that supports the team. He does what he does because he's got somebody that can support him, and I'm not saying like that's soul. I'm not saying well he can't do as a team. When you want your spouse to be successful, or if you want to be successful, it takes a really good spouse to be your cheerleader. And especially when Coaching takes up a lot of stinking time. And then you're coaching and then writing book, doing all this stuff. So I would like you to speak to couples who, one of the spouses is listening. Speak to couples. And how can you guys, and some of this is in the book, what you guys do, like in the morning. What do you guys do to make sure that you maintain relationship in the seasons of busyness and in the seasons of, taking off and working towards goals and things like that? And also to spouses on how can you be a cheerleader to your spouse, even when it can be frustrating sometimes with time constraints. I mean, that just is what it is. Like I love being a cheerleader to him when it comes to all the things he wants to do regarding basketball and coaching little ones. Sometimes it can get frustrating for me, but you choose to be a cheerleader. So talk to me about all that.
Well, I learned early that, as John has stated, he was pretty one-dimensional. Like, it was football, football, football. So I figured out, like, if I'm going to be a part of his life, I've got to learn this, and I've got to be part of it with him. So I figured out, like, I've got to go to the junior high games. I've got to go to the JV games because we can spend time together then. When we first got married, before we'd go to church on Sunday morning, we'd go up to the field and I would help him grade film. And I wasn't helping him. He was making me feel like I helped him, but I would write down a plus and a minus. Yeah. He could have easily done that by himself, but it made me feel like I was a part of things.
Yeah.
When he came home, I could ask about certain kids, and I'm one of those people who I need to be needed. And so I've always picked the kids on the team that need somebody, especially like when he coached junior college, the ones that were far away from home, the people that needed a mama. That was who I gravitated to because I needed to be needed by them. So I just tried to always be around. Once we started having kids, I figured out if I'm not at the junior high game, they're not going to see their dad because they're in bed by the time, he gets home. And so we'd just go to the junior high games we went to every game. But we'd go to the junior high games and the JV games and stuff where he wasn't, as involved and they could run around with him and play. I just kind of figured out, I want to be a part of this. And then, his dreams become my dreams. I can remember when we won the state championship in Mississippi. I mean, I had a complete meltdown. I thought we were going to lose. I was going to be the second year in the row, and I thought we were going to lose. And, I mean, if my mom hadn't have been there just patting my back and telling me it's okay, and I was like, this can't happen to him again, and I was just – because it becomes my dream as much as it is his. And, just like his book, I take great pride in it also. He wrote it, but I did a lot of corrections. I would say, no, John, that's not exactly what happened in that story, and I would fix it. And I just take great pride in the things that he does. I have a job, and I love my job, but he has a career, and mine has always come secondary to his. One thing is I have the younger kids, and then they come up to him. So I get to keep up with those kids and stay with them for a long time, and I really enjoy that. I don't know. It just became football became us, not just him.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too, like creates so many memorable moments too. Things that you wouldn't have expected, and I just say that because I'm constantly in athletics and traveling. I always joke that the bleachers are my couch. I don't actually have a couch, whether it's between basketball and football. And there's actually a lot of memorable moments that are created that I wouldn't have thought without it. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
And in the book, I want to kind of go back to finish us out. In the book, each chapter ends with challenges, and there's a workbook too. And so, but it ends with challenges. And sometimes it can be a little overwhelming to do all these things to create goals, right? And so out of all the things with those challenges, when somebody reads the book and they see them and you're like, if you could just choose one, just one to start a daily habit, what would that challenge be? What is the most important one that you think would be that you were like, do this first?
Probably if I had to select one, it would be the get up early. You know, the get up 15 minutes earlier than you normally do and do something productive, whether it's read for 15 minutes, whether it's pray, whether it's meditate, whether it's walk, whether it's exercise, you know, just 15 minutes early to yourself and do something to add value to yourself. I think over the course of my lifetime, there has nothing benefited me more than waking up at 5 a.m. and getting a cup of coffee and grabbing 3 books and sitting down and reading for an hour. I don't know that anything has added more value over the long haul than that. You know, there are a bunch of things that we can do, and you know, and if there was one thing, it would be keep a gratitude journal every single day, and the first thing that you do when you wake up is you put 3, 4, 5 things down that you're grateful for every single day. To me, that's life changing.
Yep. And you, Stephanie, and John, both of you, for busyness, being busy, being on the go, having a very, just everything that you do is a busy life. And this is in the book. What do you guys do relationally that helps you guys stay grounded with each other? And it kind of goes in with what you said about in the morning and everything. I'm
just curious about what she'll say.
Well, really, we do everything together. You know, like even the little things, like our kids are like, can you just do something without him? I'm like, well, I mean, I enjoy being around him. You know, we go on trips when we can. We've all, like, since our kids were born, or I guess before, we've always made sure and taken like one small trip before football season, one small trip after football season. We try to just still date each other, you know, and that's very important. And when we're home, you know, we try to have some kind of connection. I mean, even if it's just watching TV, we're like, he's not off in his office. I'm not off somewhere else watching TV. Like, we're trying to just sit together and, you know, be present with each other.
And there are times of the year, you know, in the fall, we'll get up in the morning time and we will take a walk together. And, you know, those are fantastic. Sometimes in the spring, because we start so freaking early, right? I mean, the kids get there at 5:30, so in the springtime, it's not as easy. And we start school early in Nixa, you know, like Mississippi, we started like 8:30. Here we start at 7:30, but we're normally doing something before school, you know, at 5:30. So in the spring, it gets hard. But we just try to find ways to, I told somebody today, you know, like it's so easy for parents to throw all their life into their kids' life. And then when their kids get out of the house, they look at each other and they absolutely do not like each other. Because they do not continue to date each other. And that was just one thing that, you know, I knew from a very early age because of my experiences, you know, in my own life that that was not going to be our life. Like, we're going to find ways to continue to take trips, to be best friends, to do this thing together. Because, again, like, what's the one of the things that the devil or Satan, you know, does to cause some of the most harm in this world, and that is to isolate people. You know, let somebody be alone. Why was COVID so bad, right? Because everybody was locked in and alone. So, you know, like, I never wanted to be alone. I'm not an alone person. Like, I'm for twos, right? I got to have her, you know what I'm saying, to make it in this world. So we have always made sure that was just part of life.
That's awesome.
We often say that if I die, if he doesn't have a date, by the time he gets to my funeral, he'll have one by the time he leaves, because he cannot be alone.
It's so funny. I think that's true for so many men, to be honest with you.
No doubt.
Okay, so to end us out, I really appreciate you coming on, but I do want to make sure that everybody knows you can hear more from John on his podcast, which is Spotify and Apple, really all podcast platforms. And it's Never Stop Getting Better. And pick his book up on Amazon, and it's Never Stop. Real easy, guys. Podcast and book. Never Stop Getting Better. John Perry. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with everybody.
Thank you for having us. Yes. It was a pleasure.
Good.